The OG crew is back. Wow, this is weird. Hey, friends.
The exact same. I thought you would look different.
In what way? Like a little bit more tan?
Yeah, a little more tan, maybe a little more like just relax. You seem uptight
Really?
after getting off the boat. You need to be more relaxed.
Oh, well, it was a nice little 48-hour travel experience where you hang on a budget French airline for hours and they just give you no updates and tell you a window's broken, but no one's actually coming to fix it. And you don't leave your location for an extra 24. And you have to massively change all of your itinerary. That probably added a little bit of layer of stress. Like, maybe the rookie manager who looks like $1 billion when he first starts, and then a month in you see a little bit of weathering. So I'm there. It's like a month in. It's not like the full season of 100 losses and all the stress. It's just a little pinch after the vacay. But OG crew back together. Also, I don't know if we gave this its due, AJ, but Kratz had his birthday this past weekend. I was on Friday, and it kind of just slipped through the cracks with Father's Day and everything else. So a little
happy
birthday. Yeah. Did you do anything cool?
4-4. Yeah, I went to like 7 softball and baseball games all weekend. We went Friday night. We went triple header on Saturday, double dip on Sunday. So I guess that's 6. It was fun. It was fun to watch them all play. Got to see all 3 kids play. So it was a neat little Saturday.
There you go. 7 games. That defeats even Todd Frazier in terms of how many games you were a part of. Maybe.
Except he coaches them. I just sat there. I sat there and did nothing.
Good. Well, happy birthday, dude. You look fresh and young. Let's charge the damn mound. This first topic is for AJ. Happy birthday, AJ Pierzynski. The Chicago Cubs are kind of bad right now.
They're not kind of bad. They're pretty bad. I don't know. Everyone thought they were going to be better, but their pitching hasn't been much improved. Hector Neris in the 9th inning has been an adventure. Their offense hasn't been very good. Listen, I saw a thing the other day, Dansby Swanson and Jason Hayward. You put their first 200 and something games against each other. They're almost identical, and Hayward got booed out of town. So they aren't very good right now. And, they brought in the high leverage, the high money manager, and it hasn't worked out so far, but they're not dead yet.
Yeah, this was the Cubs from last year too, right? With the bad bullpen that fell apart at the end of the year. And the Cubs team that was probably exceeding expectations for most of last year. Many, including myself, called for them to sell at the trade deadline. They decided not to. They minorly bought, right? There wasn't massive buying all around, but they picked up Candelario. The bullpen fell apart, but the bullpen fell apart for them last night. It's bad timing right now. Kratz. I mean, they are watching the rest of the NL Central all kind of rise. And I picked this team to win the division. I didn't feel comfortable about it, but the narrative continues. Why did the Chicago Cubs decide to end their offseason in the 5th inning when they got the players that they were supposed to get back? And wait for it. It's not like it's been a complete disaster. Like, they've had injuries, but I wouldn't say any more than most ball clubs have had. And Shota Imanaga is a Cy Young candidate. So where would they be without maybe the best signing of the offseason?
Who knows where they would be? Reality is this offense they re-signed Cody Bellinger, and there was plenty of other people out there. This offense is middling. They sometimes put together at bats. They score runs when the wind's blowing out. But they had other opportunities last night. Didn't get it done. I'm confused. I'm perplexed by this market not getting more than what they did. Had they not, they're going to be like, hey, look at how great we did getting Shota. We got Shota Imanaga. He's up there in the Cy Young candidacy this year, but without that signing, that's a middling signing, and it just goes. Everything is just kind of, we're just kind of floating through the season. It's getting warm in Chicago, so fans will come out anyway. So who cares?
There's serious booing going on out there, though, AJ. And some of it's probably for Manny Gonzalez because he had a rough game behind the plate. And we're not going to do an official ump show, so we'll show the scorecard here. But most of it is booing the organization right now for putting out a very mid product and really playing to what we've seen in the National League. Aside from a few ball clubs, everybody kind of looks the same. They win a few, they lose a few, they hover around 500 and hope that they'll be one of the lucky teams that wins the lottery and gets hot. And here's the Manny Gonzalez scorecard with 77% called strike accuracy, which means what? About 3 out of 4. That's pretty freaking bad.
Yeah, but he was good for the Cubs. Look at the
still lost.
Run.
True.
He still lost.
True.
I mean, he was on the Cubs side. So I mean, the biggest thing for me is where's the offense? I mean, we talked about Chapman and we talked about some of the other guys that the Cubs should go out and get this offseason. They got Bellinger, but where's the offense? There's the offense. The pitching has been actually okay for the Cubs. You know, Imanaga, Steele's coming back. Assad's been kind of a revelation for them. The back end of their bullpen's been started out really good, but Neris and some of the other guys, Leiter and Wisniewski, and some of those guys have struggled here a little bit. But where's the offense? Where's the guys that are going to go out there in Chicago and bang when the wind's blowing out in Wrigley Field? They just haven't found that, and that's the question. Like, Craig Counsell is a great manager, but when you don't have the pieces to plug in, like he had all these pieces in Milwaukee, you could kind of bounce around. The pieces don't look like they're there. So what do you do if you're the Cubs? You're not going to tear it down and start over. So who do you go get? Because how much do you want to give up your farm system? That's going to be an interesting month on the north side.
You better not start over. They did that already. This was supposed to be the up and up. And they do have some impressive prospects in the farm system, but I think they were anticipating to use some of those players in trades. They were expecting to be, in a solid spot, in first or second place in the division, head into the trade deadline and add on, because the rebuild did actually work in terms of gathering some more young core talent this time around, Kratz. Some of it we're not seeing up in the bigs, but also you trade some of that away, right? You're looking for that Gleyber Torres deal that lands you the Aroldis Chapman piece that helps you in a playoff series. But I don't know. I mean, they look very much not like the Milwaukee Brewers do, your boys. I don't know where we have them right now on power rankings, because the whole National League just is like a nonstop therapy session every other week.
It is, but I think kind of what was said before, like the rest of the National League Central is like, okay, we're kind of rounded into shape here. We were treading water before. The Reds went through a stretch that was tough. Yeah, I know the Reds lost last night to the Pirates, but they're all just kind of hanging around there. And the Cubs, you would think this was the chance that they could maybe bump themselves up closer to the Brewers, and they're going the opposite direction. The Reds are passing them up. The Pirates, I don't know what to think of the Pirates. I love any team that has 2 elite young pitchers in it, but to me, the Brewers have kind of cooled off a little bit in the sense that they aren't as hot as they were, but they're still consistent. They're still playing a very consistent winning brand of baseball, and the Cubs might be the worst team in the division right now.
Standings wise, they are. So they're 34 and 39.
Way they're playing too, because everyone else is kind of, hey, we know we get Skenes every 5 or 6 days. We know we get Jared Jones every 5 or 6 days. The Reds rotation is starting to get healthy. We have Andrew Abbott going. Lodolo's made 3 starts in a row, which is unheard of for this rotation to be healthy at the beginning of the year. And now they're starting to continue the success that the guys that were healthy was having. And then the lineup's getting healthy. Hopefully Friedel's not hurt. I didn't see what happened on that play where he dove, but like this, they should have left the Central in the rearview mirror and just attacked the Brewers. And it's the other way around. They're going to have to play catch up now the rest of the summer.
Yep. Exactly. So we'll talk more Cubs later. Sahadev Sharma from Northside Territory and The Athletic, of course, going to join us. So we'll do more on a therapy sesh there and see what's going on. But let's do some game previews, SeatGeek style. Here we go. The official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball has you covered for all your baseball ticket needs. And we'll lock in on a ticket to Orioles Yankees, which begins tonight. And Garrett Cole returns tomorrow. And Anthony Rizzo's now down for probably a month plus, maybe 2, depending on how that looks, although he wasn't playing well. Lot to talk about here. Bradish is down for this team, which will certainly be a conversation here. Will he even come back at all this season? Do the Orioles suddenly need to think about a starter? So let's start here. AJ, when you see the pitching matchups, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And yes, I know they're skipping Burns. They're not getting to Burns here, the Yankees. But what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see these three versus the other three?
Where are the names for the Orioles? Where are the Bradish, the Means, the Kramers, the Burns, right? Or, I mean, no offense to Suarez, Povich, and Irvin, but I mean, Nestor Cortez, Garrett Cole, and Luis Gil has looked a whole lot better pitching for the Yankees than the guys for the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles, listen, they've taken some hits in their especially in their starting rotation, but what will Mike Elias do? That's the thing for me is like if they go into this and they don't play well and they don't pitch well, Mike Elias is going to have to do something because you can't just count on Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez 2 out of 5 days to go out there and shove because you need these other three guys to do something, and they have the prospect capital to make it done. But who will they go get, and will they do it? That's the question because where are the names in the starting pitching rotation?
Yes. Even if these three guys shut the Yankees out and, push off the haters, we can do this too. Those guys are legitimate big pitchers. They still need to go get somebody. No matter the results of these games or even how they pitch each of them in their next 3 starts, they need to get somebody. And to me, I think they will. I really think they will. And I've been trying to figure out who it's going to be. I wish we knew somebody that could really say who's available. If only we had a guest that could tell us.
I don't even know why I'm hosting today. Kratz could just handle it, but I will do this. I'll try and do my part before we get to the inside scoop. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek's the #1 rated ticketing app, and you don't want to miss out on the FT code, which is FOUL, $20 off your first purchase over at the SeatGeek app or on the website. It's concert tickets, festivals, games, of course. That's what we're focusing on here. Again, the promo code is FOUL, FOUL. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. That is SeatGeek, the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. You can also use the code FAIR if you watch a little FAIR territory. Inside scoop right now. Ken Rosenthal back on FT. Ken, good to see you. And let's get to the Orioles-Yankees series. You wrote about the Anthony Rizzo injury. Of course, Cole is coming back during this series, and he'll make his season debut, which we're excited about. And the Orioles might have some extra shopping to do at the trade deadline. So what do you think of this one? I know you mentioned litmus test, but also it's a good time to actually talk about where these teams will be at for trades.
Well, I heard what Erik just said, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. And they know, too, that they are going to need to at least be in the market for a starting pitcher. What I heard last week is that they will wait until the last minute based on where they are with health and performance in the rotation to decide whether to go out and pursue a starter. But that was before the Bradish latest injury. So it seems fait accompli at this point that, yes, they will look for starting pitching. As we've said many times before, they've got the system to do really anything they want pretty much. And I expect they will get a starter and a reliever and be aggressive doing so.
It came out the other day that they were looking for a center fielder possibly because of what Cedric Mullins is doing. I said that's like, to me, I think that's way down on the list. They should almost get 2 relievers and a starter before a center fielder for a lineup that I think bangs without having every position bang.
I agree. And a right-handed hitting outfielder has been on their list from the beginning. It's something that they feel they could use. It doesn't have to be Luis Robert Jr. It could be more like a Kevin Pillar type. But yes, their bigger priorities are on the pitching side of it. No question about that, especially with the uncertainty surrounding Bradish now. Remember, they've already lost John Means and Tyler Wells for the entire season. And one more pitching injury, let's say that happens, then they're in real trouble. So it would have been great, and maybe it still will be great, to have Burns, Bradish, and Grayson Rodriguez. But right now, I don't know that you can expect Bradish to be there.
Ken, on the other side of this series, you have the Yankees, and Anthony Rizzo goes down on kind of a strange play at first base where he kind of gets hip checked a little bit by the pitcher, complete accident, breaks his wrist. But you also have Glaber and DJ that aren't really playing well. That's basically 3 guys in their lineup that weren't really doing what the Yankees expected. What are they going to do to replace Rizzo? And then will they think about replacing Glaber and DJ at some point?
Well, Joel Sherman of the New York Post reported that they're calling up one of their top prospects, Ben Rice, to play first base. with Rizzo down. So he's going to be on the roster. I don't know if he'll be in there every day. They've got DJ that can play first base and then go with Oswaldo Cabrera at third. That's the more likely scenario, perhaps, than playing a prospect every day in the middle of a pennant race. But they do have Rice, and they can take a look at him. He's a guy who has 15 home runs already between AA and AAA. Now, even before Rizzo got hurt, the corner infield situation was one that they were going to be looking at. And there's not much question that will continue. It's not clear exactly what they will do or should do. They could go first, they could go third. I don't know that they're going to act on a second baseman. When John Birdie gets healthy, maybe they can play him more if Gleyber is struggling. But Gleyber has hit better since May 1st, and I don't know. Well, my understanding is the Yankees don't see him really as a problem. It's the corners that are more problematic right now. And let's not forget, DJ hadn't played in a long time before coming off the injured list, so they're going to be patient with him and give him time to kind of find his rhythm again. And yet, they are in the middle of this, and they know the opportunity before them. They're not going to let it go to waste.
You wrote an article with Sam Blum about Ron Washington working with the young players. Is there a cost to that? Is there a cost to winning in the now?
I don't know that they are winning in the now, first of all. And I don't know that there's any cost to handling young players the way he is handling them. He's trying to teach them. And one of the key components of the article was these sessions that they have when a player makes a mistake, young player, even a veteran player like Pilar, they put him up in front of a video screen, they show the video, and the player explains his mistake. And to a man, pretty much we heard that the players are cool with this. They like it. They believe it is instructive and helps them going forward. If you want to talk about the cost to young players with the Angels, really it would be rushing them to the big leagues, which is something that they have done in the recent past with Zach Neto, who is doing really well, with Nolan Shanuel, who has not done quite as well. So that is the bigger question with them. But they like their young players. They feel they're pretty good, and they believe that Washington can bring the most out of them. That is why he was hired in the first place. The other question that we raise in this is, okay, where are you going with this, Angels? Because the Angels seem to shift directions with the wind, right? And it's nice to talk about developing young players, but what are you going to do at the deadline? Will you trade Taylor Ward and some others to get another group of youngsters in there? And what do you do long-term with Trout and Rendon? Two guys who make a ton of money and yet aren't often available. That's a real problem.
So, Ken, just to double down on the Angels, do you feel like from the story and just from your conversations with Wash, there is a bigger picture in mind because the organization needs to make changes in terms of how they develop players, including at the major league level? Like, is there a deeper meaning here because the results aren't there? The team's not good. They should be selling at the deadline. And frankly, even if you look ahead for now, it's not like you're excited about a ton of prospects in their system. It is ranked towards the bottom from our friends at Baseball America.
Part of this is simply by necessity. They had planned on competing, and then Trout and Rendon and Brandon Drury got hurt, and it hasn't worked out the way they anticipated. So they had to play the younger players, and when you're playing young guys, well, yeah, you want to bring the most out of them and teach them as best you can. There's not a lot of teaching in the game today. There's a lot of looking at iPads. There's a lot of focus on exit velo, but teaching how to play the game, it's practically a lost art in coaching instruction right now in the major leagues. So that is a big part of it. That's what Washington does. That's what he's well known for within the sport. So it all kind of works that way. But I don't know, Scott, I would say that there is a larger message here. This is what the Angels have right now. This is how they're dealing with it. I have yet to see from Artie Moreno over the last, I don't know, decade plus, he's owned the team 20 years or so, a concrete, clear-cut vision. And I'm not seeing it now. I don't know where their vision is.
Well, that's kind of my follow-up is if this is their vision, if they brought Ron Washington in to kind of change things, obviously play the veterans, but help the young guys who all their prospects are in the big leagues right now, why did they only give them a 2-year deal? Like, I feel like 2 years is not enough to turn this thing around. So it feels like it's kind of short-sighted by the organization.
It's 2 years with an option. And I would say at this moment, the expectation is they pick up the option sometime between now and the early next season, so that he's not a lame duck next year. But Erik, your question is a good one because Perry Managian, their GM, is in the last year of his contract. He's not signed beyond this year. He's a guy who has been involved in drafts in Toronto and Atlanta. He's pretty sharp with identifying players. They have produced prospects under him. Most of their prospects now, the guys in the big leagues and in the minors, those are guys that came in since he took over 3 or 4 years ago. So that's the real question. What are you doing with him? Are you keeping him or are you letting him go at the end of the year and having another GM? I believe I wrote in the story, the next one would be Moreno's 6th in 22 years. That is a high rate of turnover.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to tie this into my next question and next team here because some people are asking in the chat about the Mets and Grimace. So we'll have some fun with this because they're on a run right now. We had Casey Stern on the show yesterday. He's kind of a Mets specialist. He has a Mets show that he hosts. He brought up the Angels as an example of a team that bought into themselves last year. And maybe there was deeper meaning with Shohei Ohtani's marketing value alone and not wanting to trade him. But he said they bought into what they were doing. They ended up selling off the few, good prospects that they had, right, that were towards the top of their system, and it all came crashing down. He brought up the Mets as an example of a team that should learn from that. With the Grimace run that they're having right now, and with basically almost every National League team being in the wild card discussion, I'm just wondering for your view on how this is going to play out with about 40 days to go until the trade deadline, because you could have almost the entire National League within a few games of a wild card spot. It's a tough sell to your fan base, even if we know that this team really wouldn't win a World Series.
We've got to see how the next 40 days play out. The Mets are on a roll right now, which is really good. It's finally their time, it seems. But let's see how it all shakes out. We've got 6 weeks to go here to the deadline, and that's a long time in a major league season. So I agree with you, Scott, that if they are within striking distance, based on what Steve Cohen has talked about, and even David Stearns talked about wanting to honor this year's team and compete as best they can, selling Alonso, for instance, would be a very difficult thing to tell your fan base that you're going to do. So I hate to be wishy-washy, but I'm going to be wishy-washy for the next few weeks with questions like this because there's still so much to go and so many things to play out. Who knows? 3 Mets pitchers could get hurt and then they're not in contention and then everything changes. Or they could stay hot. The pitching is healthy. Everything looks good. And they say, you know what? All right, maybe we're this year's Diamondbacks. All of these scenarios and everything in between is possible. So it's true not just for the Mets. It's true for virtually all of these National League wildcard contenders, a bunch of teams in the American League as well. It's just too early to know what any of these teams are going to do.
We know the Dodgers are going to make the playoffs. Which injury that was announced just the other day, I think it was announced Sunday night, hurts them more, but also could help them?
I know where you're going with this, Erik. And in my view, in a way, this could help them, especially with Yamamoto, who is probably not going to pitch a full season anyway. Now, I say that assuming he's coming back, assuming he's going to be okay, and we don't know that for sure. It's a rotator cuff, or triceps. It's a questionable thing. So there's an unknown there. With Mookie, the question always was, what will they do at the deadline? Will they stick with him at shortstop all season? Now, this doesn't necessarily alter their plan, or so they say, but it seems to me their goal has always been maybe to get a shortstop if they can at the deadline, move Mookie to second, and if Gavin Lux doesn't hit, and he really hasn't hit much this year, then that's fine. That's the best way for them to go. Problem is, who's the shortstop? Right now, it's Miguel Rojas. Miguel Rojas, an excellent defender, better than Mookie, but he's 35 years old. And the question is, can he play every day? If they believed he could at the start of the season, he would have been the shortstop. Mookie would have been in second, right? So there is a lot to play out here, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out exactly, because you can say, well, Mookie's not going to get the reps now. He's obviously going to have to take time off. How is he going to master the position? He was working so hard at it, but he loses time. Can you really put him back at short? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it's a good one to keep discussing as we get to the trade deadline, and maybe they add a shortstop to get some help. I mean, I don't think they're getting Adames anymore at this point. That was talked about a lot in the offseason. The Brewers look too good. That would be a disaster. That would be like, the Hader gate from years back. But anyway, let's get to Mookie's former team, because you just saw the Red Sox. Ken, who are the Boston Red Sox? And will they actually try and add on at the trade deadline just to try and raise fan morale? I know that's not what it's all about, but we know that's a thing, right? And that actually hits the pockets for them when maybe attendance isn't as strong as it used to be, despite them being around a wild card spot.
Same thing, Scott. And we got to see what happens over the next 4 or 5 weeks. They are certainly an interesting team. They're young, they're athletic, they are exciting. And yet, when they get Casas back and when they have some other things take place that will bolster their roster a little bit, they should be in that much stronger a position. So I want to see what they do too. I'm very curious because the last 2 deadlines, they've waffled. That's part of the reason Chaim Bloom is no longer there and Craig Breslow is. And yeah, they do need some excitement. They need a boost a little bit, and they need to re-energize their fan base. And you're right, Scott, that is a thing. It's about the paying customer after all. So I don't know which way they're going to go. They're a young team, so they're going to experience ups and downs. We've seen that within the course of a series at times with them. But at the same time, they're quite interesting. And some of their younger guys, Ceddanne Rafaela, as we've seen, Wilyer Abreu, who is coming back as well as Casas, these guys are for real as players. They're good. And the question then becomes, do you trade Tyler O'Neill? Do you trade Kenley Jansen? Do you trade Chris Martin? Or do you simply sit there and go for it? As I said on the broadcast the other night, every signal they've sent since the offseason is that they're not going for it. Well, maybe it's time to reverse the signal.
Yeah, it's a great call. And I mean, if you look at Boston right now, they're 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. I think the surprise has been, say, at least for now, the downfall of the AL West, where you have the Mariners running away with the division. And there's a chance that the Rangers and the Astros don't make the postseason. So we'll see. Ken, good chat. We'll get you again soon. We'll talk to you later this week, and we'll see you on Fair Territory on Thursday.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Ken Rosenthal, and Fair Territory Monday and Thursdays. Thursdays live with Alana Rizzo. And this is a good time for me to thank Alana for filling in for the majority of the week that I was in parts known, and also Hannah Kaiser, who filled in on Thursday. Great job, and hope you guys had fun with Alana for some of those shows. Let's hit Hot Corner. We good calling Paul Skenes an all-star now? Actually, AJ, you weren't on the one show where we carried it for a while. We were talking about the debate of a rookie coming up and making it to an all-star game when there could be competition against a player that started out the season, has more innings, more starts, etc. I actually think the conversation's not going to mean much because he's been that damn good, and it's not like he was called up, June 1st. But your thoughts on him being an all-star and also just what he did yesterday to Cincinnati?
Well, first of all, against Cincinnati yesterday, he had all the pitches going. He had the splinter, he had the four-seamer, he had the slider. It was really good, really fun to watch. As far as being an all-star, listen, I think he can do it because he's pitched enough now to where he's not Ellie De La Cruz, who came up like June 1st last year, right? He's been up for, he's got 39 and a third innings. His whip is under 1. He's got 7 starts now. I mean, he's got enough where he's got some numbers behind him. It's not like this is like, oh, man, he just came up 2 weeks ago and we're all excited. I mean, he came up May 11th was his first start. And then he's been really good for him. He's been something that people want to see. And plus, the All-Star Game's an exhibition. And I think letting him pitch an inning, I mean, yeah, there's probably somebody on a team somewhere that's going to say, oh, I was here all year, but Paul Skenes took my spot. But are they probably better than Paul Skenes, and does he bring more excitement than Paul Skenes? Probably not. The difference between him and Ellie, though, is Ellie came up later than what Paul Skenes did. And I think he's, by the time, you throw another month of starts on top of there, he'll be in double-digit starts, and he'll have enough numbers. I mean, he's, 4-0 with a 2.29 ERA, a whip under 1. Those are all-star numbers to me. Because let's say a guy was hurt for the first month, and he put up those numbers, you'd be like, okay, he deserves to make it.
Jared Jones, for a little bit, was looking like an all-star. So if there's some regression from Skenes, if he goes, if his ERA gets above a 3, because at some point you have a clunker of an outing. If he doesn't have that clunker of an outing, to me, I think he's in. I think he's in. But if he has a clunker of an outing, are we still going based on numbers, or are we going based on the fact that if he's throwing 101 in his starts, hey, we want to see it out there. We want to see dudes coming out pumping 103 for an inning. Does he have that in him? If he has that in him, yeah, the excitement's there for sure.
What about his line after the start yesterday? Said truly a 5-pitch game today, and that's what AJ was alluding to. And Skeen said, I used all 5 pitches. Definitely fun to be able to pitch like that and play a little bit more of the mind games with them, right? Occasionally you see, a hot shot come up and he's got maybe 1 pitch truly developed. He's working on a second, or maybe it's 2 working on 3. To me, that's the separator right now. That's why he's had instant success and really hasn't shown much of a blip. Kratz, I mean, he's on the mound here with 5 pitches, making people guess. He's putting them where he wants to put it. And that's actually not what we saw in college. Like, he didn't need this full arsenal in college, and he's added to it, and he's done it successfully so quickly.
He probably had it. Like you said, he probably didn't need it. I didn't watch a lot of his college. Obviously, I saw the College World Series, and that was impressive. But when a guy can say that, and if he truly believes that, to me, that points to longevity, health, the ability to be out there and eat up innings, even if he's eating up just 6 innings, rather than trying to go out and punch out the world and give your team 4 or 5, but get your 10 punchies. To me, that's where that separator comes into play.
Yeah, it's been a quick rise. And also, let's move on to Dylan Cruz. The Nationals promoting him to Rochester, so he moves up a spot. He had kind of a slow start. James Wood's actually hurt right now. I know in DC, fans are just anxiously awaiting the arrival of last year's first-round pick to the org, and Wood, who's been one of the better prospects in the sport, and you could have made the case that he should be up on the big league roster to start the year. I think they looked at their own club and said, I don't know if we're going to be there yet. They kind of are potentially there in terms of being a wild card. I know you guys had Chelsea Janes on, what was that, yesterday on the show? And she was saying the team might not do much, but they also might not do much. Like, they might not sell at the trade deadline if they're in this range, and they might just see how things go in the second half of the season and not mortgage too much of the future. I mean, does anyone think that the Washington Nationals are significantly worse than the other teams that they're sitting around in the standings right now?
No. I mean, I think their depth is really, really shallow in the sense of, like, you're really hoping that the guys that have stayed hot on the mound for you continue. And I just don't know that. To me, if you need a shot of offense, a guy that's hitting like 355 in AAA when he gets healthy, in James Wood, who you asked to strike out less than he did before, and all he's done this year is walk the same amount that he struck out. Like, to me, that could be as good as going at the trade deadline and picking like the Cubs. We just talked about the Cubs. They picked up G-Mark Candelario last year. Wasn't like a super significant pickup, but to me, he could add a shot in the arm that will build your org for the next few years. I don't think they're going to sustain what they've done, in the sense I think teams will start to pull away in this wild card, and I think they're probably about a 500 team.
AJ, if you're Mike Rizzo, you're GM of the Washington Nationals, and you are at this spot in a month from now, what would you like to do?
They're not going to do it. They're not going to pull the trigger. They're just. I mean, I know they're tied for a wild card. If they're there, oh man. I mean, I think you have to make some kind of move to appease your fans, but I just don't know that they want to give up, because apparently, since every team is alive for these wild cards, there's not a lot of sellers, so you're going to have to give away a lot to get something. I think they're playing better than we thought. I thought going into this year, I said the Nationals would be better because of the way they played last year and some of the moves they made this offseason. But yeah, do you call up a Cruz, do you call up a Wood and say, hey, this is a pennant race, let's see what you guys got? I like that move because it'll inject energy. But as far as making a big move, I think Mike Rizzo is going to wait till the offseason and maybe go sign a guy and maybe make some trades in the offseason, because that's usually when he does his best work.
But then does that mean not selling? I guess that's the next step, right? If you're not
They're
buying.
not going to sell. They don't really have that much to sell for me. I mean, who are they? Joey Gallo? Who are they going to sell? Patrick Corbin?
There's some pieces.
I mean, there is.
Well, no, not Corbin. Like, I mean, it's you're not going to get much for most of these guys, right?
Yeah.
So the pitching maybe like Kyle Finnegan could be one of the better relievers available if you made him available.
But don't you want him for next year if you're going to keep rate going up? Right? Wouldn't you rather say I'm going to the offseason with Kyle Finnegan and some of these guys at the back end of my bullpen that have done a good job for me? I mean, Trevor Williams, right? And that the guy who's been so good for him, the starter. I mean, don't you want him there next year to go into the offseason and say, hey, we got the top of our rotation set and ready to go with him and Mackenzie Gore?
Yeah, and Williams, I mean, I know he's hurt right now. I think he's supposed to come back soon. Low 2s ERA in his first 11 starts. Yeah, he's had a breakout year. He's been in the league for a while. It's more of a, if you sell high on someone like that, I'm looking at the rest of the roster. It's a lot of vets, and some of them have panned out and been decent players for them this year. Jesse Winker certainly has bounced back. If you look at his overall season,
he could be a guy that gets traded. He could be a guy.
Yeah. Well, because also you have to open up some outfield room. So if you do make a move like that, right? Like if you sell off a Winker and an Eddie Rosario, who could even end up back in Atlanta if they acquire 2 or 3 outfielders, you can say, hey guys, I know we just sold them for a low level prospect, but here comes Cruz or here comes James Wood. So you could actually potentially have addition by subtraction on that one. Meneses, Lane Thomas. But yeah, again, I mean, there's a reason why they're in this spot. Like I know you're shaking your head. For me, Kratz, this started last year in the second half of the season. The Nats outperformed expectations. People that bet the under on the win total for the Nats are eating it this year. I mean, I think it was close to 100 losses from the odds from BetMGM. It was at least deep into the 90s. They're not getting there. Will they finish 500? I don't know. But I don't think they're going to be a 95 loss team. Do you?
No, I do not. I completely agree. I think even if they get rid of Trevor Williams, I think they've found ways to win. That might be an ignorant take because I haven't watched enough Nationals games. But talking to Kevin Franzen, their analyst on TV for the Nats, there's interesting pieces on this team that, one, they call up, and Davey Martinez, who came from the Rays, he saw what it's like to call guys up, not have a ton of superstars outside of Evan Longoria, outside of the pitching staff, and getting the most out of their lineup. And to me, I think that's where their unseen value is from. CJ Abrams is having a breakout season for him. I think a season that when he got traded in the Soto deal, they thought he was going to be a big piece of it. They thought he was going to step in. It's been a slow burn for him, and now he's kind of learned and turned it on. I think Lane Thomas is that piece in that lineup that makes them go, and he's flourished since he's gotten playing time. I think it really revolves around them looking for ways to win, but that only goes so far. You need superstars. You need guys to step up to be that guy to take them to the next level.
All right, let's get to some breaking news on FT. Our friend Jesse Rogers reporting about the ABS system, the robo-umps. He said MLB is tweaking its ABS experimentation at AAA. It's another indication that if and when they bring it to the big leagues, it will be a challenge system, right? So this is the step right before the big leagues that is undergoing experimentation. And beginning on June 25th, they are going to have a challenge system for every single game. For the first half of the season at AAA, the plan was full ABS for Tuesday through Thursday. That's what's been going on. Challenge system on the weekends. So this is what they do. They use the minor leagues as a lab. They said, what looks better, the midweek games or the weekend games? And to me, I think this is big, AJ. I think this is really pushing us towards the fact that the league is going to bring this out in the big leagues. Whether it's 25 or 26, it's probably going to be one of the next 2 years. It'll be a challenge system, and it's not going to be the full ABS.
Of course, because they still have an umpires union they have to deal with. So the challenge system I'm fine with as long as it's quick. I just don't want these games to be longer. And again, we've talked about it. How do you choose who gets to go like this? Let's say Austin Wells, no offense to Austin Wells, is hitting ninth for the Yankees, and he goes like this, and he's wrong, and they lose their last challenge, and Aaron Judge comes up, and there's a ball way outside, and he goes, oh, wait, we don't have one, and he strikes out. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the strategy of this plays out down the road, and I just hope it's quick, and it's obviously they have the technology to make it pretty good, but I just hope it's quick and it works, and they figure out how to do it.
I love it. I'm not sure why they do Tuesday to Thursday. Like, man, I wish it was a Friday, I would have gotten that call reversed. I still would have been in the at bat. Like, to me, I think the ABS is not. It can't happen. I think the challenge system adds a bit of intrigue, but exactly what AJ said, I can't sit there and use up one of AJ's challenges. The good hitters, the bad hitters are going to be instructed, hey, you better be spot on. And to me, if they're letting the players do it and not, it's not coming from the bench or anything like that, let the players ask for the challenge on the bases too. Take it out of the manager's hand. Take it out of, because I love seeing how many people are like, oh yeah, check. Oh, never mind. I thought you were out.
I think it's going to add a really cool element of strategy, and it is a good point. It's about letting the superstar hitters potentially get to extend their at bat, right? Like, this is what the front offices are going to ask for too. Keep in mind, front offices know that an extra pitch for Juan Soto can go a much longer way than an extra pitch for your 9-hitter, right? That's going to make a huge difference. I mean, to me, that's fun. That's a fun element of the game. Like, I can see AJ calling a game on Fox where the number 8 hitter used a challenge for, 2 of his at-bats, and he was wrong both times. And AJ's like, yeah, your teammates are going to be fucking pissed at you, dude.
No doubt. What I want to see is if it gives the catching position, because hitters really know the zone. Even hitters that you wouldn't expect know the zone, they know the zone. And if they can use the challenge system, is it going to change the value of catchers? I know they're still going to be doing the receiving, but all of a sudden it's going to shift that pendulum of, I think it's like 81% of value in receiving in catching is receiving, 13% is throwing, and whatever the rest is, 6% is blocking. I wonder if it's going to shift that value matrix to change the type of person you put behind the plate.
Go on.
Meaning, hey, I'm really good at receiving. Yeah, well, you blow at hitting, or you can't throw out the trash, or now all of a sudden the value of receiving is so escalated that I heard that there was a catcher who had incredible receiving. I heard a presentation that he was more valuable than Mike Trout in his MVP year. I think this catcher had like 11 home runs one year, but he had great receiving numbers, and the valuation of him was higher than Mike Trout that season, and Mike Trout was an MVP. So the receiving numbers are so escalated that if now we have a challenge system and it kind of takes away that receiving element, not completely takes it away, I know they're still there, are they going to stick guys who are maybe not the best receiving and better at throwing and blocking, or guys who hit better? Now they have to find people that can teach throwing and blocking. AJ, I'll tell you, everybody wants to teach receiving because there's such a perceived value in the receiving and gaining strikes, and that value is going to go down.
I mean, good. I hope it goes down, AJ.
Me too. I think it's one of the most overrated values we have in this game. I think it's stupid at times. I think we look too much at it because, the teams have gone to, you might have 10 pass balls this year, but you might steal 20 strikes. 9 of those pass balls might lead to runs, but hey, you stole those 20 strikes and on the one knee with, listen, I get why we're doing it, and I get why guys are on one knee. They want to steal the low pitch. But then you see a ball, I forget what game I was watching yesterday, and there was a ball in the dirt with a runner on third. The catcher couldn't get to it. It goes by him. He tries to backhand it. The run scores. They lose the game by 1 run. Is that run not worth as much as stealing 2 pitches earlier in the game? So that's, to me, is the rub. And listen, I think that, I appreciate the receiving stats. But what's amazing to me is you can have a guy who's number 1 in the league one year, and the next year they drop to like 20th. They didn't change anything. What changed? The umpires they had behind them, the pitchers they had on the mound. Like, it's such an ebb and a flow that I don't think we perfected it yet.
Well, let's look at one. What's up?
Teams think they have. Teams think they have perfected it, and they think it is they're even playing it out as like the greatest value in the entire sport. You're getting guys who are worth like an entire run for the season. Somebody that's like a 1 WAR player because of his receiving stats, and they feel like that value is nobody's paying for that. Nobody's getting paid to receive.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, a guy that steals strikes consistently is going to significantly improve your run prevention. The part where I think AJ has a point is, number one, depends who the ump is. So there's luck involved. Could be significant luck involved if you're able to fool certain umps, and also just certain umps are way better than others.
Let's say you had Angel Hernandez, and right. I know we picked on Angel before. You're going to get more strikes called, right? So, Damn, if I'm a catcher, I'm like, I want Angel back there every game because he's going to call stuff that aren't strikes, and my receiving numbers are going to go whoo through the roof, right? If he's back there 10 times versus 2 times, and he misses all those pitches that were balls, that he calls a strike, guess what? I look like a better receiver. So I'm like, to Angel Hernandez, I'm like, dude, let's go. I need those all called strikes. Or, I hate to pick on Angel now that he's gone, but I mean, he's, just the first name that everyone talks about. But even the Manny Gonzalez last night, we showed, he called more strikes than were actual strikes. Does that mean that the 2 catchers are better catchers than anybody else? Or does it mean Manny Gonzalez had a bad night, but the catcher gets credit? So to me, it's very fleeting stat because there's so many variables to it. I mean, Jonathan Lucroy back in the day was considered the best one year. The next year he was the worst. He didn't change anything. Why did he go from best to worst? Nobody could tell me.
Well, I'll show one example. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that the argument that they give, the argument that the analytic department, who are evaluating the receiving, the argument is, well, over 10,000 pitches, it all evens out. The umpire you get, the pitchers that you have on the mound, it all evens out. And I'm like, okay, 10,000 pitches. Like, what if you're a backup? You're evaluating, but the same people, I hear them evaluating. Hey, what's the deal? What did you change this past week? Your receiving has been much better. Wait. Beginning of the season, you told me it's based on 10,000 pitches. So why are you evaluating good or bad how I did in 1 week? Like, you could be completely manipulating one umpire in that week, and it changes your stats. Like the Manny Gonzalez game, the bad umpires, yes, I get it. Angel would call pitches outside the zone. Manny didn't call pitches correctly. The issue is in receiving, yes, you might get those pitches, but you're also losing all the ones that he got wrong in the zone. You're getting docked for those. You're getting minus 0.5 on that one, minus 0.3 on the borderline ones.
So let's show an example then from last night, because here's my thing. I hate framing. I think it sucks as a fan to watch. It's stupid. It affects the outcome of games, but to me is a skill that baseball wasn't built for. So in that Cubs game that we were alluding to, Patrick Wisdom watched a pitch sail so far off the plate that this is where the challenge system could come in with ease. Everybody watching right now can see that was not a strike, correct? That one's going to be an easy screw you. It's 3-0 in a 1-run game with a team that is on the ropes right now and really needs to get someone like this either on base or maybe get, a 3-0 heater that he can put over a wall, right? Like that is bad right there.
It's a bad call. It's a bad call, but AJ will tell you, when you first started catching in high school, if you would have done this to umpires, if you would have done this exactly what Patrick Bailey did, I'm not saying Patrick Bailey was in the wrong. This is where the game is, and he's a valuable receiver. If you did that, that umpire would have tapped on your shoulder and been like, don't show me up again. But we're so far away from that. We're so far away from that. That is like, it's the norm now. You just rip that pitch back in the zone.
True. It used to be catch a ball like a ball and a strike like a strike. And yeah, there were edges, but umpires used to get mad if you move the ball like this. I mean, they were like, I want you as quiet as possible. And now it's just become such the norm. And listen, Manny Gonzalez just had a bad night. So to use that as an example is kind of unfair. But Patrick Bailey will get credit for it, and he'll make $1 million more because he got that one pitch framed.
What about the entertainment factor of this news, right? Because to me, this is pushing us closer to what's going to happen within the next season or two. We had a big year last year with a pitch clock. From an entertainment perspective, most people said, I like this. Clean, crisp, get rid of some of the BS time, 20 plus minutes shaved off of a game. Next layer here, what pisses off fans? Bad calls. What will fans enjoy and keep them more engaged in a game? Watching pitch by pitch and seeing if a pitch is off. Going to a game with your buddies and being like, yo, that's not a ball, right? Or that's not a strike. And then you see the player actually challenge it. That fires up a crowd, probably more so than the ABS because you're not going to get that, right? Like this is actually correcting a human error. So I think it's going to be awesome. I do. I think it's going to solve a lot of problems. It might actually hurt FT because we might lose some of our show segments, but we'll take the hit.
We're not losing them. They're still humans. They'll still make mistakes.
Okay. So we're a fan though. This is good. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. I do still think there could be a world where the ABS system eventually does happen. The full balls and strikes. You don't, Kratz? You don't think it'll ever occur? I don't think they're comfortable with the tech. So this is a good way to get rid of the really bad, blatant calls.
But you're saying that you mean where it beeps in their ear? Oh, strike. Like they're just constantly.
Yeah, I mean we've seen that in the minor leagues and in the Arizona Fall League actually already for years in certain leagues.
Yeah, but I just can't envision a place where the tech is correct, in the sense that we can't get the pitch comm to work correctly all the time in our hats. Like what happens when the one umpire was talking about the fact that a pitch bounced and ABS had it as a strike. It might have tipped that zone. Like, is that what we're going to go to? Like a pitch that bounces and is called because it's a big curveball, but it touched the zone. Like, are we okay with that? Are we okay with that repercussion?
Yeah, but I'm saying they should be able to fix these glitches. That's why you're not going to get the full ABS until the glitches are fixed. At the same time, AJ, if there is a glitch, big leaguers are going to find it and take advantage of it. They might do that with an ABS system that's via challenge. Like it's not the same, but you still might be able to find a glitch in the system if that's the case and be like, yeah, even if that gets called a ball, I know ABS is going to reverse you and call that a strike, right?
100%. I mean, the big curveball, a big ephus pitch will make a comeback because, again, all it has to do is touch. The strike zone is 3D. I think people think of it as a flat thing, but it's the whole plate. So if you can throw a pitch that comes in high enough and it almost like slow pitch softball comes in straight down and it touches a part of the strike zone and touches a part of the plate, that can be considered a strike by ABS. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think you'll see, the Burt Blyleven big curveball, Barry Zito big curveballs come back because if you throw it slow enough and it just clips, it can be coming down. It just clips your knee and it just clips the plate. I mean, that's going to be called a strike, and people are going to have a problem with it.
Well, this is great, actually. We're going to have more ephus pitches, which everyone likes, and we're going to have a little less framing value, which most people think is boring. All right, let's step aside and we're going to continue the Cubs combo.
Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of Foul Territory. Unified Healing is an innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. This technology promotes wellness and deep relaxation, and there are hundreds of locations across the globe. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifydhealing.com/foul to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/FOUL. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
All right, we're Cubs heavy at the first hour here at the jump of the show today because of what happened to them last night, and it just gives everyone a little litmus check, a little reality check on where they're at and why it's been such a disappointing year. Of course, you can catch it all the time on Northside Territory with Sahadev Sharma and Patrick Mooney, and also check out all their work in the Athletics. Sahadev, great to have you back on, man. So let's go over last night's game and how it explains what the season is looking like for the Cubs so far. Do you feel like last night hit a boiling point for the fan base with the booing and the way that they lost?
Yeah, I think last night was kind of the peak, or maybe the nadir of everything here. The fans were really frustrated. Neris is struggling mightily, and Hector Neris, anyone that's watched him knows that this guy puts men on base at times, but he knows how to get out of it. He doesn't overthink the situation. So you think that he's going to settle down and get into it. He's done that all season long, and then the last 3 or 4 outings, it's just the runs are coming at far too much of a frequency, and he's got 2 blown saves in games that they really felt like they were going to win, and they had some momentum going, and they're at a point right now where they just need to rack up as many wins as possible. So losing in that fashion, and I'm sure we got 2 former ball players here, they know that losing when the bullpen blows a game, that's some of the most demoralizing losses you can have.
It feels like you're not set up for the next day, or like, now Hector can't go for maybe the next 2 days, depending on how they're using him. Yeah, that's a demoralizing, especially when you had a 3-run lead, not just like a 1-run lead that you coughed up all 3 of them. Is this, though, ultimately a gift for Cubs fans? There's no season where Cubs fans are like, oh, it's okay if we don't win, but almost like a message to the front office, like, you needed to do more. You needed to give us more. Like, I get it, they're 1.5 games out of the playoffs right now. If they make the playoffs based on what the front office and ownership spent this offseason, it's almost like showing the fans, hey, see, look, we didn't have to do much more. We made the playoffs. Isn't it almost like a gift? Like, hey, this team is struggling. They're not going to make the playoffs. You need to spend more. You need to make more moves and get out of the 5th inning that you said you were in the offseason.
I don't disagree with the general premise that you have there, Eric. I think, unfortunately, with the way baseball is set up right now, it's hard to really buy into that, because so many front offices are like, if I get 83, 84 wins, sneak into the playoffs, there's only 2 or 3 great teams all across baseball, right? And then anything can happen. We've seen it year after year now. So I don't think a lot of these front offices are super motivated to go above and beyond when it comes to spending and trying to get the elite players who cost the most money, right? The ones that rarely hit free agency. So when they do, the best teams are going to spend well above what everyone else is willing to. I think there's a couple things here, right? Jed Hoyer's been reluctant to spend big on that elite offensive talent. He just has. He's hoping to develop that player, or he's hoping to trade for that player with a solid farm system that he's helped build here. There's also the idea that Jed Hoyer just doesn't spend big on relief pitching. I generally agree with that practice, but at a certain point you have to, I'm not saying you hand out 3, 4, 5 year deals, But I think you need a couple more veterans in this bullpen that have done it before. They didn't get enough of them. I like Hector Neris. I think Hector Neris is the perfect type of person that this bullpen needed, because there were some young arms coming up, and they've been waylaid by injuries. I don't want to ignore that, but still, they needed one or two more veterans in this group to just kind of settle things down in case of injuries, in case of ineffectiveness. Neris is a great leader. Neris has been there before. He sets a great example for everyone else. He's not going to overthink yesterday's blown save, and you can go to him again if need be, but there's just I've had people around baseball say there are a lot of front offices, and Jed Hoyer is included among that just don't value relief pitching as much as maybe coaches and managers do, especially when they're in that situation. They're like, I have to go to this guy again, or this guy's really struggling. There's a reason Craig Counsell said he's going to stick with Neris as closer, or at least isn't just removing him right away. It's because his options are limited. He has to get 27 outs somehow. So Neris is either going to be used in a high leverage situation in the 7th or in the 9th. And he's going with him in the 9th because he's the veteran and he's done it before.
And Wisniewski's he had a great start to the year, and he's kind of faltered a little bit. It's really, to me, it's a view of very little depth. And that's how you build a team, is with depth. And when that depth gets tested, it's exactly what you said at the beginning. When you cough up a 3-run lead, you're sitting there going, oh, great. Now what do we do? We got to figure out how to win tomorrow. That is demoralizing. But the reality is, this team doesn't hit. Yeah. Why do they not hit? And is there light at the end of the tunnel? You can't strike out so much and expect any difference. It's they keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right. I think they believe they have a better offense than what they've seen for the past, 46, 47 games now. I agree. It's better than the worst offense in baseball. I think what I really focus on right now is what I said before. They don't have that elite bat. I think they have good offensive players, sometimes guys that perform great. But you look at Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. These guys have 2-week slumps? I mean, Aaron Judge started off slow and he was just basically an average player for a couple of weeks and people were freaking out. And now he's once again MVP level. I think that's the type of player that when others are slumping or others are the focus for the opposition, now you have that elite player. We can't focus on, say, a Suzuki as much. We can't focus on Cody Bellinger as much. Cody Bellinger of 2019, that's the player I'm talking about, right? He's not that player right now. He just isn't. So they don't have that elite talent, and I think there is something to be said about that guy being in the lineup. I'm a numbers guy. I can look up all the numbers you want and tell you about numbers. There's something that I've learned being in Clubhouse every day for the past 15 years, and there's stuff that you just can't measure. There's stuff that just matters that the numbers won't tell you, and I think having that elite guy in the lineup changes things and avoids these long, prolonged slumps, because I do believe they have good players. They're just all slumping. They're just not getting the big hit when it matters. They're not. It's little things at certain times. The ball's finding the glove at certain times. It's all these things are coming together, and it's leading to terrible offense, right? I don't think they're that bad. I just think when you don't have that elite player to avoid these types of slumps, then these slumps can get extended.
All right, so you mentioned Cody Bellinger, but a big name they did bring in was Dansby Swanson. And for all the hype he got, I mean, I saw a thing, I don't know when it was, but through their first 207 games, Dansby and Jason Hayward are pretty identical to what they're done. I think Dansby had some more home runs. But people, and I love Dansby. I played with him when he first came up, but are the fans getting ready to be like, what is going on with Dansby Swanson? Because offensively, he has not come close to repeating what he did with Atlanta.
Yeah, I think the fans have been a little frustrated for a while now with Dansby Swanson. Listen, I think he's an elite defender. Watching him every day, I've learned that. I didn't realize how good he was at shortstop until I started watching him every day last season. Very impressive at shortstop. Makes all the routine plays and then makes some difficult plays that I just did not realize he could make. He started off slowly this year, both defensively and offensively. So I think that was a little jarring to see the defense kind of falter. Yeah, the offense isn't there. He played hurt for too long. I think that caused some issues. His mechanics aren't where he wants them to be. He's kind of leaning on breaking balls. It's a lot of different little things that I've talked to the hitting coach about. He's not where he wants to be. He's not getting the results he needs to be getting. He's getting paid a lot. Now, granted, they added him for that defense primarily. They were hoping for slightly above offensive production and elite shortstop defense. And then there's intangible things that Dansby Swanson provides that they were hoping he could help in the clubhouse with. I don't think that's the primary reason you go after him. I highly doubt Jed Hoyer's thinking in that fashion, but it matters. It matters for sure. But he just hasn't produced the way one would expect. The offense is well below average right now, and that just doesn't work. I do believe Jed Hoyer. I know Jed Hoyer looks back at those winning teams from like 15 to 17, and he saw elite up the middle defense and said, that's how we can get back to being a great team. They do have elite up the middle defense. I don't know if you can say that about any other position right now. It's shortstop and second base. It kind of hurts when the rest of the defense isn't up to par around the field. So it's tough to justify spending so much on up the middle defense when the rest of the defense is kind of bringing the overall defense down, especially when you're not getting the offensive thump from the guy you spend all that money on.
Am I out of line in saying that the technically 2-year, $22.5 million contract that Shota Imanaga signed, I get it, there's team options, and it looks like, hey, we're going to pick those up. Is this the best out of nowhere story that we've seen? I mean, besides David Bodie hitting a grand slam when he first got called up back in, what was that, 2015 maybe? 2014-ish, somewhere
I think
there?
It was 18. It was 18 or 19, but yeah.
Oh, that was already back in 18? Okay.
Yeah, something like that. It's the memories are fading or mixing all together, but it's up there. I can't think of many better contracts that the Cubs have signed. That's for sure. I mean, it's a steal. He's everything that you want in a player, right? He's a performer. He gets the results, but he's also flashy. He's fun. He's a good teammate. He likes to make jokes. You're showing highlights on the screen here. And I love watching guys like that get fired up and really enjoy the moment. And fans do too. Fans have quickly embraced him. He's quickly embraced the fans, the city. It's really fun to watch him pitch. I don't know where this team would be dreadful right now without him. If they didn't have him right now, they're already 5 games under. I don't know where they'd be. He's been so impressive. I thought he'd be good. I did not expect this. I did not expect this type of brilliance. I don't know. He's had some rough patches, and that he's bounced back already is nice to see and impressive to see. That's a crazy contract. That's a hell of a contract. You can't really beat that deal. I don't know if the Cubs, there were some people in the Cubs front office that were high on him. I don't think anyone expected this. This is pretty crazy.
Did anybody expect the starting rotation to do what they're doing? I mean, we've talked about the demise of the lineup right now, but the starting rotation between Tyon, 3, I'm not sure what he has, a 3 something, even after kind of a little bit of a maybe. Yeah, it was just above a 3. Shota, Javier Assad has below a 3. Like, is this a product of good pitching, or are we overlooking the defense, which you talked about is why they brought in Dansby Swanson? They kind of build around that.
I mean, it's mostly good pitching. Jameson Taillon, I did expect him to bounce back from last season, but right now he's not striking out enough guys to make you really comfortable with those numbers, with the results. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts striking out more guys. And Justin Steele had a couple rough starts after coming back off the IL, but he's been brilliant too. He deserves more. I don't think he has a win this season, and he absolutely deserves to have a few wins. He's been really good lately. He's looking like the guy that finished 5th in Cy Young voting last year. I don't think they expected. I don't even think their projections had their starting pitching this good. I mean, you can talk about projections, right? Either public or private. And the reality is they were probably like an 80-something win team, low 80s for most projections. I don't think any of the projections had the starting pitching like this, which makes the offense all the more disappointing, because if you get this type of starting pitching, now you're talking about a 90-win team if the offense performs anywhere close to last year. So that's why it really feels more disappointing in a sense, like you wasted something so far through 2.5 months. They just they haven't taken advantage of starting pitching that I don't think many people expected. I mean, think about it. Kyle Hendricks has been rough to start the season, hurt at times. Jordan Wicks has been hurt. Justin Steele missed a month. All these things happen, and they still have really good starting pitching. That's the one bright spot, one of the few bright spots overall for the season and for the organization, as far as an organization that really struggled to develop pitching for a decade plus now has some homegrown guys that are really standing out, and they seem to be maximizing the guys that they brought in.
So let's finish with this and spin it forward. How do you see everything playing out for Chicago? Does it look like they will go after a massive bat at the trade deadline? Do they go after a Pete Alonso at the deadline and some bullpen help? Do the Cubs try and switch things up significantly even within their roster? Anyone maybe ready to come up that Craig Counsell can bring, into the lineup as a rookie, right? I know there's some good prospects down there marinating. So what's the aftermath here of the nadir?
Yeah, so they need to get closer to 500, right? You said I believe they're a game and a half out of a playoff spot. So that they're still going to be in it. I'd be surprised, unless they continue to collapse. They don't really have much to sell. So I believe they're in a point where they kind of have to buy minimum soft buy, but I really do believe they have to look for an opportunity to get that big bat. And in all reality, they can't really go for a rental. They need to find someone that has another year on their deal. I go back to that Dodgers trade with the Nationals a few years ago, where they sent a few prospects, 4 prospects, 2 of them, highly thought of, for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. And that was a year and a half of Trey Turner, half a season of Max Scherzer. Can something like that be pulled off? They have the system. They finally have the system to do that. Back at when that trade was made, I remember looking at it, I was like, the Cubs just couldn't pull off a deal with this without emptying their system. They just don't have that type of talent. They do now. I don't know who the right team is. That's going to be shuffled out over the next month. There's going to be teams that get hot, that get cold, and then we won't have this bunching up near the bottom of the wild card where everyone is in it. So we'll figure out if that's Vlad Jr. and a reliever from the Blue Jays or something like that. Is there another bat that hits the market? They need someone beyond this season in the middle of that lineup. They need to find someone that they can trust to play at least close to an MVP level. Their prospects are fine. I don't know if there's an impact bat in the system for sure. There's not that slam dunk Chris Bryant guy that they had, coming up in 2015. So I like their system. I'm not convinced that there's a superstar bat there, but there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of guys that they could call up Owen Casey later in the year. They could call up Matt Shaw later in the year. Those guys aren't coming up right now. They're not helping. They're not impacting this team right now. Mostly it would be relievers that, could have an impact, but not game changers. They need to make a trade. Jed Hoyer admitted it yesterday that, that they need internal improvements. But right now they can't. It's not like they're not looking, but right now they know that making a trade just isn't realistic. A month from now, we'll start talking about that a lot more. And if they're still in the thick of things, I expect Jed Hoyer to be very aggressive to look for solutions to what's going wrong. And the offense is a big one. And I think he knows that. Yeah, would he like to have like this balanced lineup where he's not spending a lot of money on one player? Sure. Yeah, he'd love to run things that way, but I think he understands that a superstar bat would change things. They're hard to come by, really hard to find. If there's one available, I think he needs to be aggressive.
Yeah, big market team, small market division. Time to show your might. Time is now. So Sahadev, good therapy session with you. A lot of fans showed up for this. Some actually just showed up to kind of hear about the Cubs struggles. So if you want to hear more of that, thank you, Sahadev. You can listen to Sharma and Mooney 3 times a week on Northside Territory. Go check it out. Go give it a subscription on the YouTube channel for free, of course, and on the podcast page as well. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods. Fresh episodes multiple times per week. There's one that just came out. There's another one coming out for you on Thursday. All right, before we get to David Dahl in the next minute or two, let's talk about Babbel and our partnership with the best language learning app out there. It is true that 1 in 5 Americans, yes, there it is, according to a study, have learned a new language on their bucket list. I know we've talked about this, this week already, and how language learning in baseball is a big deal. This is the best way to get it done. You can visit babbel.com/foul for up to 60% off of your subscription. Well, AJ, we haven't done a show together in a while. How has your Spanish speaking improved since we last spoke? I know you really worked hard on it when you went to London, where they speak English, but where are you at?
I'm waiting to do my first lesson. I have it downloaded, but I haven't been until yesterday. I hadn't been home for 2 weeks, so hadn't really had a shot. But I did download it. It is ready to go, and I can't wait to start. Hopefully today, if I find some time. But there's just a lot going on right now, Scott. It's hard. I know it's only like 10 to 15 minutes, but I've had a lot of things happening, and when you haven't been home for 2 weeks. But I am going to start it, if not today, definitely tomorrow. But I can't wait.
Okay, good. Otherwise, we're just going to keep playing the Babbel sound. You can throw it in there one more time for AJ. Yeah, like a little alarm for him, Kratz, to be able to
my
learn
phone,
the language.
trust me, my phone lets me know all the time. You have a lesson waiting. I just haven't been able to get to it.
That's right. You got the notifications on, right?
Of course.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so limited time deal for FT listeners right now. You can get yourself up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for FT listeners at babbel.com/foul. Directions on there, like flashcards, which I know Alana Rizzo was talking about, which she's a fan of. But of course, there are ways to be able to learn the language, to speak it like at a restaurant and not just to be able to write a paper. If you want to write a paper, if you're into grammar, that's cool, but that's not for me. That's why the app stands out. So the code is FOUL, FOUL, and it's Babbel, BABBEL.com/foul. Rules and restrictions apply. You can learn everything you need to have real world conversations, from vocab words to culture, and all it takes is just 10, maybe if you've got it, 15 minutes per day. Thank you. Let's talk Phillies for a hot minute, and then David Dahl will be ready to join us. And a cool experience for him. I know Kratz going back to that debut game, so help me paint the picture here. Marsh hits the IL, right? He gets the call up, and it's probably the mad dash where you just appear in a clubhouse, you blink, and you have a bat in your hands facing whoever it was, and you go deep in front of a freaking raucous crowd.
Yeah, it's called spawning in. He spawned into the big leagues from Lehigh Valley. I'm not sure if he was on the road or where he was, but he was smashing. He was smashing in the bushes. I mean, then you come up and you do that. I remember the game that he played. I was listening to the radio before the game. The guys were talking about, oh, yeah, what is this? A spring training lineup. And that, oh, man, that makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. And then when Dahl hit the homer, that made me so happy. Then they ended up winning that game. Like, it was like, I texted the guy that said it on the radio. I was like, oh, nice spring training team that they put out there. I'm like, dude, these are big league players. These are big league. I don't care if it's not the starting guys that are normally out there. Big league players. And then he came up and went to the bushes. Love that.
Well, let's bring him in right now. David Dahl from the Philadelphia Phillies is joining us. I've been following his career for a long time, and here he is. David, great to have you on the show for the first time. Can you add to the description from Kratz and take us back to the debut game a few weeks ago?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And we had just gotten back from Columbus, Ohio. So we had an off day on Monday. So I was just kind of relaxing, watching some Netflix. And at a little past noon, my phone rang, and it was Sam Fold, the GM. And he said, hey, you're going up. Try to pack up everything as fast as you can and get here. And also, we're about to go on a long road trip. We're going to London. So it's going to be a long week. And I was like, all right, let's go. And got to the field like at 4 or so, and next thing you know, I'm out in the outfield, and then I'm taking my bats and just grateful to be out there. It was an awesome moment. Got some good pitches to hit and didn't miss. So it was definitely very fun and very memorable.
Could you have done that if you hadn't had all the experiences that you had? Could you have made the trip from Lehigh to Philly, getting into the big league stadium by, what'd you say, 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Could you have still felt the same way, or were you still nervous?
I was still nervous. Like, it felt like my debut, but I think I've gone through it before, so that definitely helped. Because when I made my debut, it was in Baltimore. Had to fly across country. None of my equipment made it. I showed up like right as BP started, and I was in the lineup that night. And I was using like DJ LeMayeu's bat and Trevor Story's cleats and Mark Reynolds' outfield gloves. So like that one was uncomfortable, but this one I was ready for it.
Also, can you just take us back for a moment to the debut? Because I actually remember covering this, in my last gig when I was working for the league. You had, what was it? Was it 17 games to start the career with a knock? And I think it tied the modern era, right? They usually say after 1900. Can you help me fill in the blanks there? Because that was pretty crazy too.
Yeah, I got called up, and that was one of the hottest I've ever been, and ended up getting a hit in 17 straight games, and I actually lost the hitting streak here in Philly. I had not thought about the streak at all until that night. The catcher, I forget who it was, but he said something about it. He goes, "Oh, you're going after history tonight," and I ended up swinging at everything thrown that night and went over, so I lost it that day. But yeah, that was definitely a cool experience on that.
Now we got to figure out who the catcher was.
Was it Cameron Rupp?
I think it was Cameron Rupp. Yeah, I think that was.
Wow.
Just looking at when you made your debut.
He played little mind games with me, so he got me.
I like that. I like mind games.
Thing? Yeah, is that a thing, AJ? By the way, did you ever bring up a record to someone when they stepped in to try and psych them out?
Oh, I wanted to see records when I was catching because then you get the cool photos. So I was all for it.
Well, that's awesome. All right, so let's do a comp here, okay? So we were taking you from your Rockies experience to now being with the Phillies. I know it was a different time period to an extent, right? 8-ish years ago. What are the differences between a franchise like the one you're with now and the Rockies that you came up with? That team at the moment has been going through rough times for the last few years, and you're on a team that just thrives on the field. They thrive with how many people fill the seats at the ballpark. Like, do you experience that? Do you feel that? And even behind the scenes, like, how is it different in terms of coaching and the front office?
First off, I'm thankful for my time with the Rockies. They gave me the opportunity to be a big league ball player, and I think when I came up over there, we were in the process of winning, and we were in the playoffs like 2 years there. So, but just being here, I think it's the way they've accepted me. I feel like I'm part of the team right away, and it's just a big family here, and it's just guys rooting for each other and trying to win that night. And it's been an unbelievable experience, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this team.
All right, you've grinded it out in the minors, back and forth after an all-star season. There's been plenty of guys, especially on the Rockies, in the Rockies organization, that were high picks or money guys that have gotten contracts. What would you tell a guy that is in your situation, a young guy that makes it up, finally has a first rounder, boom, all-star. Well, he's supposed to be an all-star, he's a first rounder. What would you tell a guy if an organization comes to you or comes to them and offers them a contract that maybe seems a little bit lower?
Yeah. I mean, going through what I went through, I would say take guaranteed money if you get it. Because, things in this game happen, good or bad, it happens really quick. So, that's one thing for me. Like, it happened fast. I felt like I was being an all-star in 19, and then, I was kind of at rock bottom after 2020 and 21, and then I'm, grinding my way back to try to get back up here. So, I would personally say, like, in my experience, if someone throws something out there to you, you gotta really think about it.
Hey, I missed you over in London. I didn't see you in the clubhouse. I was trying to get to talk to Bryce, but he walked in and he big leagued Wainwright, which was amazing because he had his headphones on and the whole deal. But did you do anything cool over in London? I mean, I know you guys didn't have a ton of time. You did have basically Friday off. I think you guys had a big dinner at Tower of London maybe Thursday or Friday night, but was there anything cool you got to do? And did you get to see anything? But, I mean, you did go deep over there, so you can say you went deep in at least one European country.
Yeah, I slept a lot. You know, my wife was with me, so we walked around a little bit, saw the London Bridge, and you know, we didn't do a whole lot though because the time change was kind of getting us a little bit, and I was trying to just stay locked in. So when my name was called, I can produce and take advantage of the opportunity, which, you know, I ended up doing that, and it was an unbelievable experience to see. Like, you know, it was a big fan base there, a lot of Phillies fans. Yeah, that was really cool, and I was very thankful and grateful that I got to go over there with those guys.
David, I'll fast forward to last night. What was it like to see the Trey Turner return? And do you feel like he has, I know you haven't been with the team for, you know, a ton of time, and this scales back to last year, but do you feel like Trey has a special relationship with the fan base, you know, based on the story last year of him struggling, which, you know, has been rare in his career? They cheer the heck out of him. It's Philly. You don't expect that. And then he comes back yesterday, and it seems like the ovations are just extra for him at times.
Yeah, that was cool. It got loud when he got up there the first at bat. They were all standing for him, and, you know, gave me goosebumps to watch, and I'm sure it gave him some goosebumps there. But, yeah, he had it last year, and he started raking, and, you know, I think the fans love him. He's a great player, great teammate, and he does everything the right way. And it's very impressive to see that, you know, he missed so much time and just kind of came right back in and got, you know, what he had, like 2 knocks. So that's hard to do in this game. So just very impressive.
Yeah, he rehabbed against the Padres. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you go down to the bushes and rehab, and that's tough enough. But he went out and rehabbed against the San Diego Padres. That's kind of a flex. It's kind of a flex. What is worse? Coming back, a guy that bounced from the big leagues to the minor leagues, never an all-star in the big leagues, anything like that. But what's worse? Failing in the big leagues or having success in the minor leagues, knowing unless there's an injury, or what is harder to get through, unless there's an injury, you're not getting called up. You were absolutely killing it down in Lehigh. But you knew anything wasn't going to happen until you got called up. Because for me, it felt like, or until somebody got hurt for you to get called up. For me, it always felt like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. I feel like I should do this. But then, so which is tougher? Having success, knowing it's going to be tough to get called up, or not having success in the big leagues?
I don't know. That's tough. I think it's definitely hard when you're in AAA playing really well and doing everything you can, and you're just waiting for an opportunity. That was really hard. But also when you come up here, the expectation is, you know, got to do what you can to stay up. So that's hard. That could go back and forth, man. But I think just being in the big leagues is, like, obviously better. You don't want to be up here. So I'd probably say it's harder to be in AAA, like, you know, swinging it well and just not getting the opportunity. That's really hard.
David, what was the lowest point of your professional career? Because, you know, like I mentioned, I've followed you for a while. There have been plenty of highs and lows. The All-Star appearance, first round pick and getting to that point and then getting called up by Colorado. We went over the record earlier, but we haven't mentioned the downside, which I'm sure you've gone over plenty of times. But, you know, the injuries that occurred over the course of your career, was there, you know, a low point for you where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to keep going with this?
Probably the lowest point, you know, just after being an all-star like a year and a half before, and then you kind of just fall off a cliff there. So, but just grateful for every opportunity that I'm getting now and trying to do everything I can to take advantage of it. And, things happen fast in this game, like I said, so you just got to enjoy the ride and be grateful that you're playing a kid's game for a living.
How hard was 2 days ago? When did they let you know? Because watching the Phillies, I'm local here. They talk about it on the radio. Oh, who's going to get sent down? You never want someone else to get sent down, but they chose to send down Rojas, and you stayed. How hard is that time when you know there's a roster move? Is it going to be you? Could it be you? Because it's fresh for you right now.
Definitely. I mean, you think about it, it's on your mind, but you try to do your best to just kind of be where your feet are and take care of that night. And, whatever happens, happens. Like I said, I'm grateful to be a part of this team, and I've enjoyed the last 2 weeks or so, and I'm trying to stay here as long as I can. And the way to stay up here is by producing, so that's what I'm going to try to do. But yeah, it's on your mind. It's tough.
All right, let's finish with some fun ones. A few quick hitters before you jump, David. So first up, a random thing from your career that you have kept. Are you a memorabilia guy?
No, I haven't. I don't think I've really kept anything. I'm not a big memorabilia guy, actually. Like nothing that I can really think of. No.
You don't have anything at home?
My parents or something might have like my first hit or something like that, but I don't have anything.
So you don't have the man cave or the mantle or any of that stuff at home?
I mean, maybe down the road I will, but not right now. I actually do remember when I was in the minor leagues, I got a Tulo signed ball and a Helton signed glove. I think those are at my parents' house, so need to get those. Put that in the man cave one day.
Okay, I like that. Well, then one more follow up on that one. What about All-Star? The All-Star appearance. That was 19, right? Did you get stuff there? I'm sure you took some things.
We have some jerseys, but all my stuff I think have been kept at my parents' house right now. So they're in Birmingham, Alabama. It's far away. I live in Arizona now. So I think I got the All-Star game jersey.
Cool. Okay. Next up, coolest person you've met through baseball, on the field or just getting hooked up with someone that you always wanted to talk to. It could be a player, it could be a celeb, could be anything.
Yeah, I think I loved playing with Cargo. He was the man. He was such a funny, positive dude, and I really enjoyed my time with him. But honestly, everyone I've come across with, and I was talking to my dad the other day, just talking about all the great players that I played with on my teams, and a lot of like guys that will be in the Hall of Fame. So that's definitely cool to say that I play with these guys.
I like it. And then last one for me, Kratz has one more to finish. A city that you think would be worthy of having a major league team. It could be outside the box too, but a city that you'd be like, hey, this city needs a major league ball club.
I played in Nashville in AAA, and I thought that was a big league city. I actually really enjoyed that place, and even in the minor leagues, we had good fans there every night. They would go watch the game, and then they would go out from there. So I think Nashville is a great city.
I know you're new to the organization, so maybe you don't know all the clubbies' names, but Phil Sheridan and Dan O'Rourke are your head clubbies up there in Philly. But are they better than J. Ross in Lehigh Valley?
I haven't been here long enough. They've been great, but J. Ross, he's the man. He gets things taken care of. He's definitely the best like AAA clubby I've ever had in my career, and he's a big league clubby for sure.
Absolutely. I love that. I love it.
David, great hanging with you. Thanks for coming on the show. Also, A+ hat. Are you wearing? Is that the hat tonight?
This is our VP hat, right? It's our VP hat. Yeah. So I wear it all the time. But
it's fresh.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. And if y'all would have asked me like 3 weeks ago if I'd be on the show, I probably would have laughed at you. So it's an honor to be here. So thank you guys.
That is really cool. We love that. We love this. David, thank you. Keep doing your thing, man. We're watching.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. David Dahl with us on FT, and also mixing in a few of those baseballism questions towards the end. We kind of will collab and compile all of those questions that we've asked to our guys and to some of the player guests that we've had on. And Baseballism is the official lifestyle brand of baseball. If you want to check out the QR code on the screen, or just hit up baseballism.com for some fresh shirts. Kratz, you got the hustle today?
I got the hustle shirt on.
There it is.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's just like so comfortable. It kills me that I got to wear it on a show, because then I can't wear it like other places, because it's just such a comfortable shirt. Fits great. Cool logos too.
Well, you can still, put it in the wash and then wear it. You get to keep the shirt.
I know, but it's for the show, so I can't necessarily.
I know.
It's not baby blue. I would wear it if it's baby blue. If it's baby blue, I'd wear it more to show off my beautiful green eyes.
There you go. Love it. Well, that's why you have the green background, right? That's why you painted it green behind you.
It
finally figured it out.
The green.
Yes. Okay, let's play a little game. I am your GM. Darth Vader showing up as we are close to a month until the trade deadline. I think it's 40, not a great countdown guy. I think it's 40-ish days until we get to the trade deadline. So we'll do a little wheel spinning and we will find out which team we are running and what we would like to do with said team. So AJ, would you like to spin the wheel?
Sure.
I think you have to do some type of motion. All right. Well, I guess you just stared at it and it started moving. The Texas Rangers are up first, a former Pierzynski team. Yeah. What would you like to do to fix the Rangers right now?
First of all, get healthy. I mean, the biggest thing for them is get healthy and try to tread water until Scherzer, DeGrom, Molly, these guys come back. But right now they are falling farther and farther behind. They're 9 games behind the Mariners, 7 games out of a wild card. It looks like they might be dead before their reinforcements get back. So they got to figure out a way to get back to 500 and start hitting, because they have not hit at all. And they don't hit four-seam fastballs. Talked about it yesterday, but they got to figure it out quick because time is getting short. Otherwise, they're not going to sell because they don't have a lot of pieces to sell. Maybe a Robertson or a Kirby Yates, but otherwise, I mean, they just got to get healthy and get to swinging the bat and then worry about it, because right now they're not in any contention or any place to do anything other than play out the rest of the season.
That's the interesting part, Kratz. We've mentioned this since the offseason. The Rangers are going to have reinforcements. Most of those reinforcements are pitchers. Young is on his rehab assignment right now, Josh Young. Sabors is too. And then there's a million pitchers we can go over, like AJ started to mention, DeGrom, Scherzer, Bradford, etc. Right? They've taken a big hit. Most of their hitters are there right now.
I mean, Seager's been in and out of the lineup with a couple little dinged up injuries, but I'm looking it up right now. Where's Evan Carter? Like, what is?
He's hurt.
I know he's hurt now. I know he's hurt now, but what happened? Was he playing through injuries? Was there a sophomore slump? Was it barely even had his freshman year. Like, he was still rookie eligible. I didn't see what he was doing coming, and is that kind of permeated their lineup? Another team I haven't watched enough of, but if you just look at their offensive numbers, I had a little bit of – I was a little skeptical of the Diamondbacks this year. I was not skeptical of this team. I thought Adolis Garcia was going to take another step on top of what he did last year. I thought all the experience they got in the postseason, this lineup was going to do more than what they did. I mean, even for a little bit there, Seager had 7 games in a row. He had, I think it was 7 in a row, or he had 7 in 6 games, something like that. But you expect more from this lineup because of what they did all year last year, even when Josh Young went down.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think at least 2 out of the top 3 in terms of BetMGM odds to win AL Rookie of the Year were Carter and Langford. Who am I missing? But I think that was 2 of the top 3 that we were talking about. We were debating among those 2 who was going to have a better year, and they've been non-factors. Yeah, Seager hasn't played the whole year. When he has played, he's been great. You know, I think he had the slow start when he came back. Then he went on the home run heater. So if you look at the numbers for him, he's not a problem at all. Simeon's solid as usual. After that, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's weird because we were bragging about this team in the offseason and how they might have, problems with fitting everyone in the lineup. It rarely turns out that way. I just don't think anyone expected it to go this far down after what they did last year as an offense during the season. The concern was more on the pitching side and really on the bullpen side for Texas last year, right? That was probably the biggest surprise through the playoff run, AJ, right? Would be the bullpen, like what Leclerc did, what Sabors did. That's really what put them over the top. I don't think anyone was shocked that they were hitting the crap out of the ball based on their regular season last year.
And they'll admit it. I mean, but you look at it this year, Leclerc has been bad again. Sabors has been hurt. It's been Yates and Robertson, and their bullpen actually has been okay when those 2 get in the game. The problem is they can't get them into the game with the lead because they're not hitting. After Simeon's been good,
Seager's been good. He did go 0 in a series against Seattle in Seattle, which is never good. But after those two, I mean, Adolis Garcia struggled. Nathaniel Lowe has struggled. Jonah Heim, who has been struggled. He just had another baby, so he's on the paternity leave. But Langford hasn't hit for any power. They were counting on him. Evan Carter, they were counting on him. He hasn't done anything. Tavares, Duran haven't done anything. And Young obviously needs to get back. But the thing for me about the Rangers is, where is the offense? Like, there is no offense at all. And I mean, they went up to Seattle and got destroyed by their pitching staff. So it just, what can they do and who can they go get? Because Chris Young just doesn't want to sit there and let this go away.
When you did that game, did you get any inkling that, like, they thought they were going to get more power from Wyatt Langford? Like, is there a thought when Bochy, I know Bochy, he's going to talk like this to you. I didn't know if he'd give you any information, like, we're not sure if he's going to have power, or it's still coming, or we're surprised he hasn't had power. Did you get any inkling in that sense?
Well, of course they're surprised, because in the minor leagues and in spring training, he hit for power and just kind of went away. Now, he was hurt for a little bit. He had, the hamstring, I think it was. But, he has one home run. It was an inside-the-park home run. He hasn't hit a ball over the fence. He hasn't been driving balls. They were counting on a lot of things. And the one thing that I kept hearing from a lot of their guys is, we can't hit a fastball. And if you look at their numbers, it bears out that they really struggle with four-seam fastballs, especially high-velocity ones. And teams now are just going, shoo, 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 and they see a ton of them, and they're just not able to hit them, and they can't figure out why.
Let's spin the wheel. We'll try to do one or two more teams. I'll make a little motion for it. There we go. Thanks, wheel.
It's digital. You don't got to swipe.
No, I'm old school. I like to swipe. Boston. We got the Red Sox. So we talked to, that's Red Sox. We talked to Kenny Ballgame earlier about Boston. What would be the plan here? I'll go to AJ again first, because it's another former AJ team. And I mean, they're in a much better position standings wise than the Rangers are, AJ. But you still look at the team on paper. You're like, this team's not winning a World Series. They'd be very lucky to get into the playoffs. But at the same time, when are you going to stop being a bottom feeder? They have pieces to sell, but do you make the case that if they're in this range, you start to buy? And if so, what are they looking for? More pitching so that you can get through the second half of the season?
I think they need to act like the Boston Red Sox and spend some money and go get some guys. That's the first thing they need to do. They need to go half throttle instead of quarter throttle like they did this offseason. They're already talking about trading their closer, Kenley Jansen. They're 2 games out of the wild card right now. They're 2 games out. The division's probably not a possibility, but they could definitely make a wild card, and they have enough to scare some teams in the postseason if they get in. So I think they need some bullpen help. Definitely, they would love to get another starter. But in a bat, it's always a bat for the Red Sox for me. Now, they've had Hamilton and some of these other young guys come up and be better, I think, than they even thought they'd be. But, Connor Wong's been great behind the plate. Devers has been good for him. When does Cassis come back? But I think they need to improve their defense somehow. They need another bat, and they need a bullpen guy, just like everybody else. So, but beat the Boston Red Sox and go out and spend some money.
Kratz, what do you want?
What do I want? I want exactly what AJ wants. But I want them to do it with their chest. I want them to say it with their chest. Either go out and spend money, which I don't think they're going to. All the reasons, John Henry's into 1 in 30 odds of winning. He came out and said that maybe 1 in 20 odds of winning. And, he's worried about the PGA Tour. He's worried about NASCAR, Liverpool, all those things. That's fine. Then stay out of it and let the GM, let Craig Breslow put his print on this. And if that's the case, they need to sell some pieces from this team. They need to get what they can to add to the Rafaela, to add to the, Wilyer Abreu, to add to Marcelo Meyer coming up from the minor leagues, to add to that, add some more pieces with, hey, you can get something for Kenley Jansen. Everybody wants a closer. You can get something for Tyler O'Neill. You can get pieces and build the team around Devers, Duran, Wong has shown he should be considered their catcher of the future, the one last piece of the Mookie Betts trade. To me, just do it. Just say it with your chest.
One more spin?
Do the mas.
We have
no whammy.
Oh, we got the Phillies on a David Dahl day. The Philadelphia Phillies. Well, AJ, we know that they're perfect. They have nothing to do. If only we could clone them and give them to everyone else, right?
That's it.
They've
did everything right.
I mean, I'd love to see him go get another bat somewhere in the outfield, whether it's something, just something. I know Schwarber's started to heat it up. He had 2 homers. Castellanos has heated up a little bit. Brandon Marsh is just coming back, but man, I'd love to see him go get a center fielder, a true center fielder or left fielder, or somebody that can just mash. Because shortstop's good, obviously third base is good, first base you're covered, catcher you're covered, right is Castellanos, DH is Schwarber, Marsh is in left or center depending on where they deploy him. Gosh, I'd love to see him go get just one more, because then they'd be a complete team for me with just an incredible lineup. But will they do that? I don't know. Dave Dombrowski's been known to make the big move, so him and Sam fold together. Let's see what happens.
What about Luis Robert?
Sure, I'd love to get the prospects for Luis Robert. Let's go.
Yeah, and they have them. They have the prospects. Like we're talking after this show in about 10 minutes. We'll, if you're on here, we'll flip to the Baseball America Hot Sheet show. We're talking to Aiden Miller. He jumped up Baseball America's top 100 board more than any other prospect. He is becoming a big, big deal. Now, that probably means Philly's going to keep him, but it's McAble. It's Andrew Painter. I'm missing our boy Crawford, who we spoke to in the system, who definitely has some value. Like, there are probably 5 to 7 names now, Kratz, that you can talk about if you're Philly and say, hey, we are shelving, maybe it's Miller and Painter, but there is still like some significant value to select here if they're trying to make a trade. I don't know if that gets you Robert, but I'm saying like they have pieces to be able to pick up another outfield bat and maybe a reliever if they want one.
They have a lot. There's a lot to get Robert. Like Luis Robert is not going to be. Well, we'll just give them. Who would they like? They won 3 guys from our 10 to 20. Luis Robert's going to get you maybe McAble and Andrew Painter. Like that is a significant haul with somebody else mixed in. To me, I think if the Phillies make a bold move, it might be shedding Nick Castellanos, who was a all-star last year, shedding that contract, trying to buy a player from someone else. And I'm not saying a Kevin Pillar. I'm saying if that's the case, figuring out how to trade for some type of impact right-handed bat without sacrificing the defense. And I know Nick is not the greatest defender, but left and center field and every other position, Bryce at first is just above average. He's essentially an average first baseman. They are elite right now defensively, and your strength is your pitching. You have Matt Strahm in the bullpen, who just gave up his first run in 27 outings. You have Hoffman, you have Alvarado, you have Sir Anthony, you have Soto, a bullpen that's elite. You have the top 3 Cy Young candidates on the BetMGM website right now. The at odds for the NL Cy Young, it goes Ranger, Wheeler, then Nola. And you sit there and you go, if we add another outfielder, how is that going to affect our defense? Because whoever they're adding, if it's a significant bat, like AJ said, they're going to be out there every day. That defense needs to be elite. And Rojas is now down in the minor leagues, so it kind of shows that's what they might be looking for.
Mm-hmm. Also, just a little note, it sounds like Aiden Miller gets pushed to next week because of a little timing issue, but stay tuned on that front. Still watch Hot Sheet.
He gone.
But he'll be back. We've had some nice guests lately. Okay, let's get to a quick tweet on where the Rockies are at, which will be no surprise to anyone, and then we'll go through our locks. Patrick Saunders covers this team for the Denver Post. with this tweet. I've read a lot of speculation / opinion that the Rockies will / should trade Ryan McMahon. From everything I've been told, he's not going anywhere. If you've been watching and listening to FT, you've known that for a while now. There are multiple reasons why. Ownership loves him. They run like mom and pop. They pick certain players that they love. They keep them. They do not care if his value is great right now and there are not many sellers. Like, that is not going to deter them from getting rid of a player like this. Yes? Are you getting a call?
No, not a call. I just wanted to cover up my mic so that you guys couldn't hear. Like, there's crying from New York. I'm pretty close to New York, about 90 to 100 miles from New York City, from the Bronx. I just wanted to make sure Yankees fans didn't know that they couldn't just go ahead and like take whatever player they want from whatever team for their position of need.
Good to know, and very true. Yes, for teams that are looking for an infielder, non-shortstop, but McMahon technically can play first, third, and even some second. Not likely to happen. And I feel like it's a broken record, but we've talked about this already for, 2 years, that Ryan McMahon's probably not available, and that the Rockies generally don't do a ton of selling, especially not the big names at the deadline. Can you maybe pull off a bullpen piece or two? I guess, although their bullpen's been atrocious, although it's also
Jacob
Colorado.
Stallings?
Sure. Jacob Stallings.
Their four-hitter from last night.
Actually, Elias Diaz. Like, that's the conversation there, right? Because he's going to be a free agent after this year. That actually could be a pickup, right?
They both are. Elias Diaz is probably the pickup, but it's funny that the Rockies have two catchers that are both hitting over 300.
There you go. That's where they'll pick up a prospect or two. Lion, take over. BetMGM locks time. I was in travel hell yesterday, so Pap nailed his parlay. AJ and Kratz fell flat. I haven't been part of the mix for a while. I mean, I did do my Friday bet, which didn't hit, but let's get back involved. How have things been going? We're still all up, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, good. It's been kind of mid.
Treading water last week?
Yeah, maybe I think I was like 3-2 last week, so that was good. AJ was 2-2 last week.
I said treading water for a reason too. AJ, on Friday, I did the show from the super yacht, and at one point, Kratz was given the task to mix in as many boat puns as possible, and he did actually nail it. If someone wants to listen back, I think it was towards the top of the show. It was an impressive performance. Anyway, let's go through our locks today. Who wants to start? Yes. Go ahead.
I'll go. I got the money line, 2 money line, a little money line double. I'm going. It's the Walker Buehler. Said he's looking for the FU in his pitch. So hopefully he finds it against the Rockies. Austin Gomber. It's actually less about Walker and more about Gomber. He hasn't since 2021. His team hasn't beaten the Dodgers when he starts. So we're just going to take that win. And the Mets are hot. Luis Severino on the mound. That was really giving us close to even money. I think they're minus 115, but I'm just going to ride the Mets. And I know Lorenzen's been throwing well for the Rangers, but I feel like Severino and the Mets are on fire right now. And I'll take that at plus 168, I think.
188. Don't short yourself. Yeah,
sorry,
188 for that parlay. Okay. AJ?
I'm going kind of what I did last night where Peterson, although struck out 6, which is crazy in the first 3 innings because the Rangers can't hit, even though he had 6 strikeouts the whole year going into last night. I'm going to take the over in both Bassett and Halkamania in the Blue Jays Red Sox game tonight because I think the Red Sox tend to strike out a bunch. 5.5 isn't a big number. Halkamania with all those righties for the Blue Jays, I think he can get over 4.5, and that gets me to 170, plus 170.
Nice. Okay.
I love that.
We're all doing a little plus money today. I'm in the plus money game today, plus 115. I got the Braves run line. Their offense has been on fire again. This is what we talked about a couple weeks ago when everyone's like, oh, what's wrong with Atlanta? Not much. I mean, not much with the offense. I just don't have concerns there. Unless a guy is really hurt, yes, then I'm going to be worried. But someone like Austin Riley, who had the injury, who had a slow start, is now on fire. They're facing Casey Mize. His numbers have been okay. Also on the road, he's been pretty bad. ERA is above 6 away from home. The Braves have the rookie whose name is tough to pronounce, but Spencer Schwellenbach, I think I nailed it. Did come off a pretty good looking start last time around, right? Against Baltimore, 2 earned runs, 6 innings. So I see them beating the Tigers and beating them well. Most of their wins in the last couple of weeks have been run line wins. So Braves -1.5 to take down the Tigers. And the first bet $1,500 offer still running with the bonus code FOUL when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app and sign up and deposit at least $10 into your new account. You place your first wager, and depending on what that wager is, you receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if that happens, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's slap. We had a few fan questions and shout outs. There's one that I'll save just because I think it's going to take too long. I wanted to get to it today. Brad asked about kangaroo court and explaining that. That might actually be a good premium video for the FT feed. So we'll see. We'll talk through that in the next 24 hours or so. But I will shout this one out in the podcast review page. So if you leave a rating and review for us, there's a good chance we'll read it on the show. And also, if you want to mix in a guest request, we will try and honor that as well. So this one from Cole, diehard baseball fan, best baseball podcast, love former players giving uncensored, honest opinions about things and their insight into MLB. Big Orioles fan, would love to see an Orioles territory in the future. Keep up the amazing work. I can let you know we don't have one on the immediate docket, but maybe somewhere in the future. But we can try and get you a Baltimore Oriole on the show in the meantime. We had Grayson Rodriguez on the other day, and we can work on another one. As they're about to enter a big-ass series. Predictions on our way out for this series, and then we'll do Kratz hats. I think someone sent us a super chat and asked us how we think this series is going to play out. AJ, even though the pitching matchup favors the Yanks, you can make the case that the Orioles offense is more complete top to bottom, right? If you're game planning, which offense is more intimidating?
The Orioles, for sure, because the bottom of the Yankees is hit or miss, depending on how it's going. The Orioles 1 through 9 is pretty solid. How do I think this is going to play out? The Orioles have an unbelievable record against the AL East over their last, how many ever series. But I think this is when the Yankees get them. I think their pitching is lined up better, and I think that they're in better shape. And I think that the Yankees take 2 out of 3, and I think Heel closes it out for him. I'll be interested to see how Garrett Cole does, but I think Heel on the last game, Game 3 on Thursday, is the deciding factor, and the Yankees win the series 2-1.
I think Cole's game is the one I'm worried about also for the Yankees, just because of the length that the bullpen needs to give you. And I think that's where the game will hinge on, if the Orioles, or the series will hinge. It'll hinge on the Yankees bullpen and the Orioles bullpen. And I think the advantage goes to the Yankees there. So it's going to be a freaking awesome series, though.
We'll go right to Kratz hats. Yeah, right to it, baby.
Old school throwback, my second year. Abner Doubleday. Auburn Doubledays. Just an elite hat. Not even a team anymore. New York Penn League.
You're muted, Scott.
You are muted.
Crap. I said age. I got a B-. I don't love the colors. I like the idea, and I like that the team doesn't exist anymore. That gives me, a little bit of an edge.
I agree. It's a B-. It's a little better than mid, but team doesn't exist anymore. And plus, we've all figured out now that Abner Doubleday did not invent baseball.
We have a lot of stories that we have to run through. But we don't have time today. Baseball America's Hot Sheet is coming up next, and I can give you one guest that will be appearing on the show tomorrow. Manager of the biggest turnaround team in baseball. That's Matt Quatraro, Kansas City Royals, coming off his first ejection, too, the other day. So he's coming in hot.
Good one.
Excited to talk to Matt. He's one of the meanest dudes that you'll ever meet or talk to. I'm so sarcastic. He's nice as hell. He's super knowledgeable. They love him in KC. So we'll talk to him tomorrow. Stick around right here. It'll flip to Hot Sheet if you're interested. You should check it out if you haven't before. See you dudes tomorrow. I'll be in Orlando tomorrow. Woo!